Hello once again. Welcome to Inside LAFC. Today it is episode 15. Max Bredos, Vince LaRosa, thrilled to be with you. A reminder to subscribe to our little podcast. We love the support. Comments, reviews, knock yourself out. Go to town. Hello, Vince.
Hi, Max. I loved the little bit of back and forth we had about the TIFOs last week. That was fun.
I did, and I actually really we got it a little later out than I thought because I lost track.
Yeah,
well, we put our top
we do
TIFOs.
Get busy.
Yeah,
people think that you and I this is all we do.
Yes,
we do a little bit more.
Yeah, we also live in LA, and so when the opportunity opens up to do something fun, it's there at your fingertips. Concerts, parks,
and there are
booze,
a million taco trucks that Max has to eat at, and he has only what percentage of taco trucks in Los Angeles do you think you've gotten to?
Barely scratched the surface. I have a database that I'm trying to find, and I'm trying to use them. And there's like a lot of mobile ones that are just like, they appear here and then they go, you know.
Yeah.
It's so with regards to that interesting story, I was at LAX American Airlines Terminal 4. Leo's taco trucks, one of the big ones. There's a bunch of them. Really good. Great Al Pastor tacos. They have one, I think, on Olympic and La Brea after like 5 o'clock. Really good. So there's a Leo's taco truck in America, and I follow Leo's on my database. And they said, that is not affiliated to us. They used the name. And I was like, whoa. Taco trucks are getting spicy.
Taco truck beef?
Yes. Taco truck beef.
You're like, that's when we move on.
Not my favorite taco, but still up there.
I love that you have a database.
I have a database. I have like 12 or 13 that I'm trying to collect and eventually have my dream project of the taco truck challenge with the players of LAFC.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because for those that don't know, there is taco truck content coming from Max, and I am a big champion of it. And I can't wait for it. I don't know what part I'll play in it, but I will be at every single shoot.
The Leos and American Airlines will not make the cut. The logistics alone make it very difficult.
Well, and I think that now you've learned that they're possible imposters. How could you?
Yeah, I know. I did order a breakfast burrito from them, and it was quite good.
Yeah.
It was really big, though. I don't tip on burritos, no rice. Because then you are just decimated for the rest of the day. Bread and rice.
Especially
no sour cream, no rice. You'll enjoy it a lot more.
You don't want to eat that and get on a plane. I mean,
window seat.
It's not a problem
here.
Yeah, it's not a problem for you, but for the other 100 or so passengers.
You'll be happy to know there were no problems on that flight.
Oh, good.
So there you have it. But I was up in Portland where it's a wonderful place. I'm glad to see all that. And we're going to talk about that. So just a little bit about what's coming up here on Inside LAFC. We'll talk to Tristan Blackmon, who's really emerged. I'm looking forward to hear that interview because this is a guy whose life has changed. Had the first start against Seattle, didn't go great, but he's come back with a goal in one game and then going on one of the biggest games of the season anywhere, and maybe the biggest regular season game based on everything that was involved, and getting an assist in a 3-2 win. Yeah,
I mean, a high leverage game in a intense place. I mean, Tristan, look, I thought he was very good in that game. Or
first Seattle game?
No, not the first Seattle game.
Okay.
No, we're talking about the Portland game.
Look, there's guys that play, and if they have a bad situation, it's kind of tough to get back. I think Nico Hamalainen is a good example. He almost came on in the game, but time ran out. So, but it's you. If it didn't go great, you can't. Not that you're off the radar, but you're replacing someone who's very good.
Yeah, and we can't expect players to have just a continuous steep trajectory upwards. And I think that's the biggest compliment to Tristan is he's kind of weathered it. I mean, that Seattle game, it wasn't that he was bad. He just, again, it's something that we always bring up. Good is not good enough. You have to push the team forward. You have to be a catalyst. You have to do something that someone else can't do. And I think that Seattle game, he just played a little scared. And that's why Bob singled him out in the Montreal game, because he was not scared at all. And him not being scared also pushed the team forward. They got a goal directly from one of his interventions, stepping forward on a play when normally I don't think he would have done that. And he's learned from it. I think in Portland, he did a lot of things right. He did a few things that I think some of his pressing, sometimes he needs to make a decision one way or the other, whether to press or to go with a runner. But you learn. It's ups and downs, and I think his downs are now not as down as they have been. And the upside is he's doing some things like that second goal, that inside run, for that second goal to get in that space. I mean, it's hard as a player, I would imagine, when you pass the ball to Carlos Vela to not just watch him.
Yeah, ball watching, it's a really bad thing.
Mm-hmm. But Tristan makes an adventurous run. He might not get that ball. Carlos doesn't always play that.
was thinking of like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, trudging through that,
trudging through that basket.
That enchanted Providence Park. There's a throwback, but I think it was great.
I like. What do you think of the tifo? It was pretty expansive.
It was elaborate. It was large.
Yeah, it was large.
I mean, you saw it in person. So here's what I
was impressed.
But
they have a very high standard. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and you were there, and so you're going to give us a good perspective. I would say from a broadcast perspective, we kept hearing about how much different it is. On broadcast, you can't tell.
No,
I really could not tell. First of all, you can't see the new stand, so you wouldn't know anyways.
By the way, I was sitting in the old stand. The old stand is the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. There's like the media area where you have this obstructive view. It's still there. That's fine.
Yeah, you wouldn't know anyways. I'll tell you this. Take that microphone off Timber Joey. Every time they scored, that chainsaw was so loud, I thought my dog was going to run out of the house.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. We get it. Yeah. Chainsaw, cool. Okay. But
he was walking around a little bit with the chainsaw with the mic. I was like, there's no goal. There's no goal. Yeah. You're just running the chainsaw.
It's terrifying.
But
that can't be safe.
That's what I was kidding in the booth where I had a T-shirt on. I pulled my arm through as if my arm got severed. Once I heard the chainsaw, I'm like wiggling my arm, and the whole area laughed. I got a good laugh because they knew what I was talking about. You hear the chainsaw, and all of a sudden, ah! You lose an arm. We're also going to talk about the situations that emerged there. And we got a lot of data points from everyone out there about the amount of times LAFC and Carlos Vela have been fouled. We'll talk about that, and I know we'll get into depth to see if it is as legitimate as issue as certainly LAFC feels, and maybe not as much outside of the black and gold. But if it's a problem, we'll address it. But let's talk about Portland. Great. I was going to say, it's a great place to go. If you ever get a chance to visit, it's close to LA. Some of our people that were there stayed an extra day. If the weather is great, you can drive up the coastline. Beautiful mountains, Rainier and Mount Hood at the top. Great food, craft beers. It's great. It's a wonderful place, and it's very manageable. We stayed at the hotel. You could walk to the stadium. So every time I've gone to Portland, I've just had a wonderful time. Didn't have donuts this time, which I regret. And my son, it was expecting me to bring a whole
Are you
thing.
a zombie donuts guy? Or
I
just
go to
any
Voodoo
donuts?
because I like.
Sorry, not zombie. Zombie. What's zombie?
There's Blue Star. They have Blue Star donuts in LA now. Though.
Zombie Donuts, free plug, was a place in Fullerton that I used to go to when I lived in Fullerton.
Do they have colorful donuts?
They do. They have a donut made using Monster Energy drink. It sounds disgusting. It's actually very good.
All right. Those donuts, the thing with them, you take a bite, great. A second bite, pretty good. Third bite, I'm done.
Yeah. I'm not a big sugar guy, so sugar wrecks me.
It's a lot of sugar in there.
Yeah.
I eat less sugar, so I feel it now more.
But I want you to lead this a little because, like I said, I was watching from home. I was on broadcast. You had quite the whirlwind trip. You went from Florida, correct?
I went L.A. within 3 days. L.A., Miami, Portland. So
and you traveled day of.
Yes. Got up there in the morning, made a quick connection in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I documented that on my Instagram to show I was making it, and made it
in time for the Champions League match.
Champions League game.
And where did you watch it? With who?
Watched it McMiniman's something or other. Right there in the heart of Portland. Everyone was there. The traveling supporters, Richard Roscoe, Christian Lau, our lead tech guy who is always there, and Matt Ross of YouTube TV.
Yeah. Well, Christian is a hologram. He just appears.
Yes.
He's like tech, and he's got that Star Trek transporter.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. And so we did that, and the fans were raking. It was completely full.
How was Matt and Rich? I know that they're
Matt's a Spurs fan, so he he had to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Rich had to kind of hold court a little bit with the fans. So, I mean, there was some disappointment, but he brushed it off really quickly because he knew we had to. But Rich is a quick, get it out of your brain. Let's focus on the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, less said about that match is probably better. It was not a great match.
No, it wasn't.
But fun to hang out with the supporters.
By the way, if they could limit the amount of time between this. The semis were so good, and as soon as day and day went by, you knew the final was going to be lame just because you lost all the momentum.
And you opened it with Imagine Dragons. Don't do that.
I missed that part.
Lucky for you, Max.
I saw your tweet.
Oh.
My son loves Imagine Dragons, so I've been to an Imagine Dragons show.
Hey, and your son is welcome to love Imagine Dragons. But if you are my age or slightly younger or maybe slightly older, you should not like Imagine Dragons and should not like that they did a medley of all their songs. And I just don't understand that of the world's game. This is the world's game. It is not. So somebody put on something. They go, "This is like the Super Bowl of soccer." And
I got you beat, but
it's not the Super Bowl of soccer. The Super Bowl is the Champions League of football. because they're looking up at Champions League. There's so many people in the world that watch the Champions League. But to invite Imagine Dragons, can we be a little more creative? But I guess I am asking a lot of UEFA to be creative, I suppose. But oh man, it was bad.
It was
bad.
Look, Imagine Dragons they have the anthems. I remember at ESPN.
Yeah, they have the
new album came out.
They have the coloring book and they color by numbers, and they've seemed to figure it out.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
It's not for, but
and your old company is to blame for this. ESPN seems to love them some Imagine Dragons.
They had a new album, and the song just came out, and the song before it even came out was already the theme of college football on ESPN, and it did well. People know what it is. So at the World Cup last summer, the opening act. People at least know Imagine Dragons. It was Robbie Williams. People in Britain know who Robbie Williams is. In America and I guess around the world they did. But he was the opening act, a little bit beyond his prime. And then he flicked off the crowd on TV.
I do remember that.
This is what you get. Stick with Shakira. Stick with Ricky Martin.
Actually, I would sign the petition
Pitbull.
to have Shakira do the opening for every single thing from now on.
She can get a good crowd and get it going. If not, I have an a cappella band down in the South Bay that's getting some traction. I'll be happy to perform.
Hard pass.
All right. So where should we start with Portland?
Let's start with that. Let's start with that first 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, how about the march?
Oh yeah, start with the march.
Exceptional. ESPN was there documenting it. Big numbers. Walking down the street, there was a couple moments where it got a little hairy because you see the Timber fans popping out. Kind of like the big Timber fans, the guys that
beards
and big arms,
flannels,
flannel shirts.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Well, they had Timber shirts, and it was like a little exchange. Some guy ran out and mooned the 32-52. Someone grabbed his hat, and then it was just carried on. But it went off without a key. But this is the situation you put in where I just want to say that nothing really happened. Little things here and there, but it was so intense. The walk, the fans, and the interactions that you felt it.
Are people still mooning people in 2019?
He mooned somebody. I'm like, whoa!
That's actually hilarious.
Ran out of the bar and did it. I go, kudos for
well done,
for
sir.
Courage. Mooned. So one thing when they arrived that was pretty interesting, and I've done games and I've done it with Portland, Seattle. There's a little section in the corner that's for the away fans, and it never goes beyond that section. It's like a little slice of pizza.
Mm-hmm.
LAFC took the next section, which was twice the size, so almost like 3 sections in that corner. And I've been told now that they bought a lot of tickets in the secondary market and kind of owned that, and some fans had to be kind of
well, I would say
repositioned.
That's actually very smart of the Timbers, and they know from their rivalries with Vancouver and from Seattle how these go, and I think if we want the things that we want in MLS, we want the atmosphere. Other stadiums, other teams are going to have to learn from that, because that's what you do. If you find out that the allotment that you've given, the team has now gone well over it with secondary tickets, you got to round those people up and put them all in the same place, because that's one, it's gonna lend to the atmosphere, but 2, it's gonna keep things from getting bad.
Great. Yeah,
Which
hats
is
off
so
to
smart of
the Portland Timbers security and everything. There wasn't a lot of them, but the few people there did a great job. They were hands-on. They never left their stations. And in the end, clean bill of health. Everything was good. Mm-hmm. But when I was watching it, really, watching MLS grow, I remember you'd see a smattering of 20 fans in a game. You go, oh, great, traveling support, which never happens happening. And then you see this, and I've seen it before where you have a traveling fan base and then the home team going at it. And I was like, where I've seen it? It wasn't in Major League. I've never seen anything like that in Major League Soccer. And forgive me, some of the big rivalry games, I haven't been to all of them. I've seen them on TV. And I was there in the middle of it. It was like the Premier League where you have that allotted fan where the security's around them. And say I'll take one I did. Cardiff and West Ham were big rivals for whatever reason.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. But Cardiff had a little section there. I mean, this is what I was told. I don't know. West Ham's my team. I don't know deep in the history, but I was told, the Cardiff, they have a little bit of history, and they have them positioned security off. They were loud, and then it's about 1,000 of them, and then the rest is, and they're communicating through the whole time. And this was happening, and sometimes with this Timbers Army, which was the other end of the stadium, it was breathtaking to see that. And but again, there was intensity. It was exciting. There was part of you almost wanted to end because the intensity was too high. I really was palpable in my estimation, and I won't forget it. It was it was singular in anything I felt.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that having followed the journey through our social media posts and just Twitter and social media in general leading up to the game, it made the game feel that much bigger. Because again, on broadcast, it was hard to tell what was really going on. I mean, and obviously because the game is most important. It's noise. But if you prior to the match had followed, the marches and things like that, you kind of got a sense of why Taylor and John kept saying, it's crazy in here. It's louder than I've ever heard it. It's louder than I've ever heard an MLS game. The atmosphere is better than any MLS game we've ever been to, which is high praise.
Yeah.
And the best part is it just seems like each time that that bar is raised, that we seem to be a part of it in one way or the other, which is, I think, the greatest compliment to LAFC.
It is. And John Champ had seen everything. And I spoke to him, and he was like, this is impressed. I mean, when I spoke to him, he was a little taken back of something we'll talk about the fouling and the shenanigans, for lack of a better word, at the end of the game, which you don't want to see. So that was his last taste in his mouth. But then we talked about it. He goes, sign me up for this every week now that I'm at this position. So it was something to behold, and this rivalry is real. I mean, there was a lot of respectful Portland fans really impressed by it and welcoming it. And, there's going to be, where there's dislike to teams, there's going to be feistiness. And it wasn't really so much on here. You were saying, is it going to get there? And it didn't. Maybe one day it will, but that intense feeling is what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's why you circle the calendar for these games. Maybe they'll run into each other in the postseason. Unlikely in Providence Park unless something really weird happens.
Yep.
The second half of the season.
I mean,
all right.
I think the game mostly lived up to it.
It did.
We do all have a bad taste in our mouth because of the stuff we're going to talk about in the next segment. But the first 45 minutes for me were nearly flawless for LAFC. And I mean, they were so good. But the thing was, they were so good.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Giovanni Savarese said it was kind of...
Oh, Gio's the worst.
You tweeted about that, and I was like, come on, Gio. I love you, but come on.
Calm it down. Yeah, Joe. Okay, so for people that don't know, at halftime, Gio Savarese gets the halftime interview. Fine with me. He's at home, and he's proud of his place, and he says, I thought it was close. I thought we were very close. And I'm thinking, first of all, it's 2-0. It's not close on the scoreline. 1, almost 3, almost 4, maybe even 5. It wasn't close. That first 45 minutes were close. Now, I will say this, in hindsight, good for him, the response that they had in the next 45. But those 45 minutes it was all LAFC, and it was Portland trying to do what they do best. Yeah. They just could not handle it. So that's why I think that 45 minutes was such a... Because here's the thing. It's driving me crazy. The amount of people that are like, well, when you pass the ball to Carlos Vela, of course, bad things are going to happen. Yeah, but it wasn't just that. After that, it continued to be just an onslaught. Again, that second goal is something... It's not going to be in a goal of the week anytime soon, but if you break it down and just the components of it, especially in the lens of what LAFC wants to do and what Portland wants to do, I mean, the fact that they just cut through a team that puts 7-8 guys behind the ball and we're able to, in 3-4 passes, to go vertical and then get basically a cutback.
Yeah, it was a track meet a lot of times. Like how you said, got vertical. That's what they did.
And Brian Fernandez, anonymous for the first 45 minutes. I mean, Walker and Eddie Segura were phenomenal. And it wasn't just that they were just running with him everywhere he goes. They were letting him run offside. They were letting him go do his things. And they were so in tune. And there was times, and that second goal, Walker steps up into the play. I mean, he's marauding forward. There's other times where...
he has a license to drive.
Yeah, there was other times where Eddie was 10 yards past the center circle. I mean, they were phenomenal. And then Portland flipped the script a little bit in the second half.
In hindsight, when I look at this game, I was pretty confident LAFC was going to win. And part of it was because I think, and when I saw it firsthand, Portland was really tightly wound. There was even a protest with their... I mean, they had so much going on. I mean, you don't have to give any excuses, but I saw it, and I think when you invest so much in there, and LAFC was so carefree. They're like, it's our last game, if we lose it. I mean, this is me saying this. If you lose it, you're disappointed, but, no water off your back. You're like moving on. But there was this sense, every game prior to that, it was building up towards this. And when you see LAFC, I think I did say it was going to win, but 3-2 seems about right, but after the first half, you figured to be a little bit more. And I think, Bob was pretty critical about the way things started, and we'll talk more about it in the second half. But it must be impossible to maintain that level for LAFC. They hit them when they needed to. At that opening game, when everything is still new. And look, playing on the road for so long, that adjusts your brain a certain way for these players. And when you get home, not only you're home, but you're in front of this cauldron.
Yeah.
That's got to take a toll on you. And I think LAFC knew that, and as they do in every game, came out and they found the space, as you pointed out, and got the goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some high-level points that you can point to from last season that you would have liked to see a change, and this year they've nailed it in almost every single match. One is mentality. I mean, LAFC went there, and like you said, they look kind of carefree. They actually enjoyed it. They really enjoy if we go to Portland and that place is not full and people are not cheering, I feel like LAFC is less up for that game. But the fact that it's brimming to the top and it is kind of hostile, LAFC is like, yeah, let's go. Let's embrace this. Let's go. The other thing is the ability to kind of weather adversity. So that second 45, again, credit to Portland. They decide, so the LAFC's used to us defending deep. How about if we just send those 8 guys into their half and see what happens? And they made things happen, I think. Yeah. We weren't quite ready for that pace. Fluffed our lines a few times coming out the back, and they started sending in crosses.
Love your terminology.
Yeah, started getting second balls. And they were able to make something happen. But then LAFC flips the script again and says, okay, we see what you guys are doing. They go out and get that goal from Latif. So I think that's something we didn't see a lot of last season. And finally, they held on 3-2. I mean, of all the talk last year, all I would hear all the time, we need defenders in the last 10 minutes. Why can't somebody just defend in the last 10 minutes? Where are you now? Like, they seem to have it figured out. And I think it's not just the last 10 minutes. It's that response from the opening minute. We are up for this game. We want to play in big games.
Yeah, and
we want to push back. And that's what then gets you into that final 10 minutes where you can say, look, guys, we've done this for 80 minutes. We know we can do it for another 10 plus another 8 or whatever they added on. That I'll tell you, what was it like in the stands during stoppage time?
The stands, I had walked up. I went up to the media area and I started making it down to do some interviews to the field. So I left there. And once you got away from that corner, it like I said, everything blended in. So I looked from afar, so I didn't see how it all turned down there, but it was still electric when you went all over the place. I want to touch on a couple things you mentioned about Latif. You said something on Monday in our meeting. You go, let's stop looking at Latif for the cute dances, and maybe we do get carried away, but we got to look at him as a really important, consistently excellent player every week. And now goals in back-to-back games certainly attest that. A game-winning goal in this case.
Yeah.
Hang that on your season credentials there for Latif is huge.
And a guy that is adding things to his game. His game continues to evolve. So I love Latif for everything he is as a personality and a person, and he is all those things. I mean, I remember one time last year, John came in to talk to the digital team, was like, man, whatever you guys are doing with Latif, it's sticking because everyone seems to love him. And we look back and we go, we're not doing anything. He's just being him. Like, that's him. People love him, and rightfully so. But as a soccer player and as a guy that we've made big points on this, like to go from being a winger to a fullback to a central midfielder and a team that relies on its midfield so much is not an easy task. And now we're talking about him adding things to his game. 2 games in a row, late runs, 2 goals. Like, that's not easy to do. You don't just run out. And late runs aren't just the fact that you just wait till late and run. You got to pick your spots.
Yep.
And, I mean, he saw Christian Ramirez go to the near post, and there was just the sea had parted. And the ball from Jordan Harvey, fantastic.
Yeah.
And all Latif had to do was just cushion it down. But he had all the time. Well, I think he could have took it down, probably pull a few moves and then put it in. But it's a smart run. It's really smart because if he makes that run at any other given time when maybe it's not the right time, well, then when we go to counterpress, where's Latif? And then the counterpress breaks down, and then everything breaks down. So it's important for him to recognize.
Heavy workload, yeah, but you have head on a swivel.
Yeah.
But it's... By the way, that Harvey character, he might have a few more years left still in him.
I know.
So, I mean, just remarkable what he's been able to do. And 2 road, obviously LAFC off. They'll be on the road a lot. U.S. Open Cup at Real Salt Lake. We'll see what happens if they advance. At Colorado, June 28th. At Sporting, July 3rd. And when I think of Portland, now LAFC is a hot ticket. So if in those markets, if you're listening, why shouldn't you be listening? You got to keep up with the Joneses. There's a good scouting utensil for you fans in those markets. You'd come out to see LAFC. I think there's a real good possibility. I also want to add, like I was perusing here through MLSsoccer.com, and I guess sometimes on your searches, they show stuff that would be interesting to you on the side panels. Mm-hmm. Toto, tickets for Toto at the Wiltern came up. I did not search that at all, but it popped up there.
Well, you know, when Weezer covers Africa, and now you just got to get the band back together, Get a few more of them dollar
I
bills.
think there's only one living member of Toto, so well, there's Toto. There it is.
And no one can name them. Wait,
there are three brothers.
No one in the band is named Toto, is it?
No.
Okay.
Porcaro are the brothers. There was one living member of the Porcaros. All right, well, let's put a bow on that right there, and let's talk about, because even Latif, who's one of the more fouled players in Major League Soccer, correct?
Yes.
His numbers are way up there. He puts a lot of minutes.
Just behind Carlos Vela.
This was a discussion coming out of there. There was video about Carlos Vela getting, in the words of some, it was Jogo Bonito, a Twitter handle, which was retweeted by Taylor Twellman and others, using the word mauled. So we'll talk about that a little bit and the direction of LAFC in protecting their star player and protecting all players. And we'll also kind of give our feedback as to why things ended the way they did. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then we also have Tristan Blackmon.
I think that's fair and balanced.
Fair and balanced. All right. This is Inside LAFC. We will be right back. We're back on Inside LAFC. LAFC ending essentially the first half of their season with a 3-2 win in Portland. That is road win number 4, correct?
I believe. I know we're tied for first road wins.
Right. And now 9 points up on their closest pursuer in any conference. I mean, you can even take your foot off the pedal a little bit, which they will not.
Nope.
And get towards not only being best in the West, but the supporter shield and everything that comes with it. It would be a remarkable thing. June the 11th, LAFC against Real Salt Lake. You can see that on ESPN Plus. I'll be getting down to Fort Lauderdale. I told MLS I would love to call that game, and they've approved. And Real Salt Lake, this one's good. This is not going to be your typical LAFC broadcast. This one's going to be down the middle because I want to give Real Salt Lake their due as well. So I am a nonpartisan. Sorry.
Oh, you're going to have a rough go.
I know, but this is the situation I put it in, but I'm happy to be involved. I think I'm the right person to call
Come
on
on, Max. You're doing with Charlie Davies. Let him take the RSL side, and you just...
No, I won't. So, equal excitement for goals, or lack of excitement for goals.
Or, LAFC just could play him off the park, and you don't have any choice but to praise them.
Yeah, that could be. It would seem it's heading in that direction. LAFC will miss a few key players off an international duty.
But there's one guy that I know will be there.
Carlitos?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
See.
That is not fair, but deal with it. And I mean, could you ask for I don't want to get off topic here, but could you ask for a more perfect designated player? It's impossible. No international duty, in your prime, loves your team, is just facing the crowd, so to speak, with this team when it comes to training. Makes a good amount of money, but earns every penny, I would see. And it's still marketable beyond belief in not just this country, but in Mexico and Spain and probably other places.
Yeah, he fits.
He's perfect. This is exactly, and he doesn't leave.
Yeah, he fits the vision, right? Yeah. It's like they left no stone unturned in how they wanted to do things, and they said, look, this is what we want to do. We have a kind of narrow view of how we want to do it. Let's not go outside of it. Let's not deviate. But there was still, it's still Carlos. Things could still happen, but he's been everything we've wanted and more. And the guys in the locker room, I mean, he's a cool guy to be around. He's a different kind of captain, but the kind of captain that I think this group needs more than anything.
Yeah. He's touched on this, and my colleague, who I'll be on Taste of LAFC, former colleague Hercules Gomez, good friend, we're going to have on Taste of LAFC, and I'll ask him about this, but there was a time, and he's adamant about it, Herc, saying there was a year or two in the Spanish league, the best 3 players were Messi, Ronaldo, and Vela. What he did for Real Sociedad. And Carlos has touched on that. He goes, I don't get enough credit. I go, you're damn right you don't, because you don't hear anything about that. But he helped the team that made the Champions League, was a teammate of Antoine Griezmann, and did incredible things. And I say it's a perfect DP. Then I say there's not many like this. I don't think there is no one like this. Everything else you have to take a little baggage, right? Say you got Lionel Messi. Yeah. It's going to come with some, you get the greatest player in the world, but there's going to come with some issues.
Yeah, heavy baggage.
Heavy baggage, right?
I mean, you can look just...
He can't walk the streets, even L.A.
Yeah, you can look just down south. You got that guy down there. I mean, it's all about him.
Yeah.
It's all about Zlatan. I mean, it's him and then the rest of the team. Look, Carlos is leading this team, but this is definitely a team, and he deflects everything. people don't get to hear usually the questions from the press conferences, but it's always like, Carlos, how are you so good? Carlos, what about the MVP? Carlos, what about this? And he literally just kind of says, look, I want to be the best player I can be. And by being the best player I can be, I will take my team to great places. But you have so many players that it's always, it's me. I mean,
if he scores a goal and they lose, he's like, I don't care, we lost.
Yeah.
Great goal.
Look,
put in the coffers.
That DC United game was fantastic. They had a great game. He got asked a question, hey, everything that you touch seems to turn to gold. And the first thing he does, without even missing a beat, is turn to the reporter and say, hey, man, I missed a penalty. So not everything I do is great. He was pissed that he missed a penalty. But we won coasting in that match.
Yep.
So, yeah, he gets it.
I'm looking at renderings of a potential Las Vegas MLS stadium on the Strip.
It better be indoors.
Kind of. So it's a little bit indoors. We're going to have a lot of teams in Major League Soccer. I think we're headed well past 30 teams. Let's get back onto the rails here. And we're talking about Carlos Vela and the fouling. I know you probably have some data here to talk about the numbers. We looked at it, and he's up there as a team. They're the most foul team.
Yes.
And people say maybe they're calling 2 whistles, but it's getting to the point where this game, where there was so much and so many early ones, and what you would think are innocuous, but were not, that aren't getting called, or one that's getting called and is a yellow is just being called a standard foul, and one that's being called as a yellow that may have been a red card. And I see it, and I know we have a tilted view here because it's the team we cover, but when you see something the way it ended, not just the foul on Carlos Vela, the really gnarly one as well on Latif from Villafana, where guys are just being shot out of a rocket at times. You put your heart in your throat.
Jordan Harvey took a really nasty tackle from Diego Chara as well, like high up on the ankle, a full studs just wrapped around his ankle. I mean, there were some really tough ones. And Carlos is not the most fouled player in MLS. It's Nico Ladero.
Okay.
He's second, though, and Latif
He's
is
up
third.
There. I believe I said he was up there.
Yeah, no, he's up there.
The thing
you're
that's
right.
crazy is Latif is third, and Latif goes at such a pace. So does Rossi.
He's just so hard to get off the ball.
Rossi's viewed as this fabricator, and sometimes he's trying to get a competitive edge, and I applaud him for that. It's important.
Well,
you get away with stuff, get away with it.
Wouldn't you say that after this match, it makes that much more sense why Diego does things like that?
Yes.
Because Carlos goes down.
Carlos never does it, and maybe he should.
Kind of holds his shin, and then gets back up. And that's just, look, to each player I say to each their own. If that's your personality, the way you go down, for anybody that says, well, why do they go down so crazy? Look, run as fast as you can. Let me trip you at any given moment. See what happens. You're going to roll around a little bit. It's going to hurt. I mean, it comes out of nowhere. Look, you're not expecting to be fouled. But yeah, Carlos at second, it makes sense to me because there's been some games where we've really blown teams out. So why would you be fouling? And hopefully, why would you be fouling? So that makes sense to me. I have some reservations with Taylor Twellman. And okay. I will say this. I will pretense it by saying this. Taylor's not the only one that says this. This is a common thing that's thrown around the world for guys like Eden Hazard, Leo Messi. So Taylor is just kind of parroting things that a lot of people say, and I don't even really blame him. But the idea that Carlos holds on to the ball for too long, and that is what is causing the problems. I feel for Taylor. I feel like, because he even had to say in the broadcast, I know you feel like all I do is talk good things about LAFC or Carlos. So I felt like he's trying to find too.
What else can he say?
Yeah, he's trying to find too fine of a point. But this idea that a player holds on to the ball for too long, so that's what's causing fouls. So let me get this straight then. So if we follow that logic, you hold on to the ball for too long, so holding on to the ball for a second longer, shouldn't that give a player more time to get a correct tackle in? Or
interesting.
Does holding on to the ball for a second longer mean that the guy loses his mind and is unable to properly win the ball? It just makes zero sense to me. So to Taylor and those that use that line of thinking, I feel like one is antiquated. It's from the dudes back in the day that were like, yeah, he had the ball too long, so I went in there and I got stuck in, and I taught him a lesson. All right, but no, it doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense. So you hold the ball too long, and a guy fouls you hard, well, those are cards. Those are yellow cards. And Carlos should not take any blame for that. I mean, look, were there times when he was baiting Villafana a little bit? Yes. But
I would say at those moments where he held the ball on too long, I thought tactically it was a great idea because you're in front, you're trying to keep the ball out of their possession, and it did the job. Yeah. And he did bait him, but he stopped and he started. He took the ball into the corner, and then you're talking 30 seconds, a minute off the clock. That's killing off the game, which is exactly what you needed to do at that point.
If Villafana has proven he cannot cleanly get the ball from you, And any times that he is not able to foul you, you're going to go right by him, which he did a lot in the first half. Why wouldn't you? Take that guy one-on-one all day. And in basketball, we don't complain if a guy goes one-on-one with a guy and gets fouls gets a guy to foul out. But in soccer, for some reason, it's the attacking player's fault. It just seems ridiculous. It's counterintuitive to what we want. I'll say this: Robert Sabiga was actually our referee in the SKC game, the home opener.
I believe MLS Cup last season, so highly
MLS
regarded.
Cup. He's one of
or
my
All-Star game maybe it was, but either way, he's highly regarded.
He's actually one of my go-to refs, better ref, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And he usually gets the kind of persistent infringement. I still think we have.
Who's your least favorite ref? Don't answer that. Don't answer but this is a fun discussion.
I think he normally gets the gist of the persistent infringement, but for whatever reason, just kind of lost it.
Howard Webb was there.
Yeah, Howard Webb seems to
said hello to him.
Yeah, he seems to go to a lot of our games. He must enjoy our soccer a little bit.
Yeah, but maybe that's good because he kind of calls the shots. They're pro. It was interesting to see the discussions being had right when it got out of hand there. And it was Villafana and Bob, I don't know what was said, but it was pretty civil conversation going back and forth, at least what it would appear. And then Sebastian Blanco with a bunch of guys.
Don't challenge Ante Razov.
Atuesta who came, he got up to Ante Razov. Ante gave me some cliff notes as to what was said. And then Atuesta was also involved in there who this is me saying it, but he stopped Blanco and gave a little bit of back to him and got a yellow card, and I was like, yes.
But I would say that was
plays to your point too.
But that was cleaner than any of their hard fouls too.
Oh yeah.
Which is so Atuesta goes out there.
That's what I think Atuesta, El Profe, just the genius where you do it. Where I think it was clean, but I mean he's a slight guy, but he's a strong dude, and he kind of. I think it kind of got across because you can't get away with that.
And this is not a statement against fouling in general. Fouls can be important tactically, but there's a right and a wrong way to do that. There was a lot of fouls, like you said, that were just what are we doing? Like this is a red card, or as some people like to say, this is an orange card. But when you compare those fouls with what Edouard did to get a yellow, you see the difference in the mindset. Like, fouls can be useful. Fouls can send messages. You don't have to send them the way they were doing it at the end. I mean, Cascante decked Carlos in the back of the head at one point. That's ridiculous. And I think the fines and possible suspensions have come out for the week, and there's no one. So we're going to sweep it under the rug. And it worries me a little bit that it's been such a talking point, yet nothing has come of it. I would hope that going down the line, we see some changes. Last time we talked about it. Last time Bob brought it up, there were changes to the refereeing the following match, so
it'll probably be forgotten by the MLS game at least. But it did work there. But you can't say it every time.
No,
you can't. But he did use the analogy. It was like, does Lionel Messi get fouled like that? And again, people say you can't compare it to, and you probably can't. But I think in this instance, it's important to get that across because Carlos Vela is as important to LAFC, or he kind of plays that same role. He beats guys. And then he gets fouled some way that Lionel Messi beats guys, but doesn't get fouled. So I just think it's any food for thought you can put out there from Bob is probably well served here. Well,
I think the bigger point that Bob was making that we just made was this. It's the types of fouls. Carlos can handle fouls. He can handle being fouled. I mean, usually I've seen to look every match, and he takes 4 to 5 fouls a match. There was 8. 8 fouls. 8 times he was fouled in this match, and I would say 4 of them are ones that do not belong in the game. It's okay to trip a guy, to take him down, to put a guy to the ground, to go in a little bit hard, but the studs up stuff, the late stuff, the stuff from behind, it does not belong. It really doesn't. And I think that's the point Bob's making. If Messi gets ripped open like Carlos did for some
exactly like that, where you're like, don't do it. Oh, geez.
Yeah, for some of those, there's going to be cards because it just doesn't happen. I think that's his point. The egregious nature doesn't happen to Messi. Yes, Messi gets mauled in the fact that he picks up 5 to 8 fouls a match because he's on the ball, and that's what he does. But I don't think they're as egregious as what Carlos has. And just there wasn't enough yellow cards. There definitely should have been a red card at some point, but nothing.
I will say this now. LAFC has one more game on artificial surface against the Revolution down the road. We came down there. It's a brand new field. I walked around, and I immediately felt that the sponginess, which was really not giving a lot. And as I watched some of those games, I think there were some tackles that were bad. I think there were some tackles that, if done on a natural surface, would not have looked as bad because it did not give. I almost want to give Villafana that with a Latif blessing because he kind of came in and then his movement stopped and it caused a collision. But I saw that a couple times, and I think that is part of the equation here. And it's unfortunate. And I think one day, and I think Merritt Pulse has been asked about that, one day grass will grow at Providence Park. And it makes sense because it's Portland, which is green. Think of everything green.
Yeah. And
it would look great there. There's still a lot of stadiums. I don't think we can do much about Atlanta. You can't. I don't think you can alter that right now. Cincinnati's doing it. But this is one. If you can get close to 100% grass, just like can you get close to 100% soccer-specific stadiums, I think that's great. And I think this was a piece where you can circle and go, this is part of the criteria why you need to get grass there at some point. Because those challenges, when it's getting intense and you're going to the ground, which you don't want to on that surface, you go to the ground, things like that happen.
Yeah, I think Atlanta will be the last of the new teams allowed in that can say, well, we're going to have an artificial surface. I think you can start on it because, yeah, if you have to build a stadium, you have to have time to do that. But I don't think there's going to be any places that are going to say, here's our renderings, and by the way, it's going to be turf. I don't think it's going to happen ever again.
Yep. Maybe if New England gets something, gets a new park in Boston.
Maybe a new owner.
Maybe new coach. Oh, they have one. And they were victorious under his watch for the first time. That would be a slam dunk as well. But I think there's optimism they'll go there. But I hope that we get to that point. And I know it's near and dear to you. I know it's near and dear to Bob as well. And it just makes the game. I was looking at the ball bounce around a fair bit, and it affects Portland too. And they have beautiful players that could probably knock it around nice. And Valeri and Blanco. Yeah. Brian Fernandez is a remarkable talent. And I know I said it last week, but they signed him at a very pretty penny. And he was the second leading scorer in Liga MX when he left. Yeah. For a team that was a perennial playoff team. Mm-hmm. This is a world talent that you would compete against good European teams to get that signature.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they did have to pay a little bit more to entice someone to come to Portland. Yeah. I mean, they had to. They would try to say maybe, guys don't know what Portland is, they don't know what it's about, so we have to lure them. Kind of the way that like Sporting KC says it's tough to get guys out to Kansas City, but I guarantee you if you go to Kansas City and go to Portland and you see Kansas City Stadium, you see all that grass and you see the training facility, you might decide to go to Kansas City instead of Portland when you see the turf. Yep. I would.
I'm interested to see what the traveling support's going to be like for Kansas City. We get that. Yeah. That's coming up.
LAFC away days, they're a thing.
Hey, international tournaments are coming, so we have a collective thought here on the Women's World Cup. Yeah. Right?
Let's do a quick one on it.
A very quick one. And we wish the U.S. the best, the reigning, I don't think you can say defending champs, reigning champs. It's a different World Cup. Reigning champs, fully loaded for another run. Two things stick out to me, which make me feel that the U.S. will not win it. Stop. Stop the booing. I can hear you from here. I'm a true-blooded American. I think the European teams are so much better, and they'll have that advantage. Much as we've seen the World Cup in Russia or similar ones of that nature where the European teams are good. Mm-hmm. France has got the best players in the world, not from top to bottom, but at the top 20 players, they're there. I think that's going to make it difficult. England, Netherlands will be there, Germany. And then we've seen so many World Cups when you bring everybody back, coach included.
Marcello Lippi.
It doesn't work.
I've lived it. Literally lived it.
I've seen it, and I it's like the Einstein thing. I go, look, same results. Yep. If you bring everyone back a little bit older, the hunger from the teams out there is going to do it. So I hope I'm wrong.
I see Andrea Pirlo walking out on the field, and I think, hey, Carly Lloyd. Carly Lloyd's walking out on the field.
Is it?
And look, the 2015 tournament was one of the most exciting tournaments I've ever watched. That U.S. team was so much fun to watch. But we saw at that time that that gap is definitely closed. Yeah.
They're not going to sneak up on anybody.
No, and that's why that tournament was so exciting. They went toe to toe with teams that literally could play against them. It wasn't just, hey, we're going to roll into the final and then maybe we have a tough match. It's the gap. There's no more gap. Yeah. You go to Europe, you're going to
some new faces there, but not really. The core is the core.
Yeah, definitely
Morgan
new faces.
And Rapinoe and Julie Ertz and obviously Carly Lloyd.
There's a reason why historically it's tough for coach / manager to repeat.
Becky, of course.
And then, that core. I mean, I'm being hard on Carly Lloyd. She's not going to start. She's going to be more of a bench presence. So it's not like she's being thrown out there. But, still Rapinoe, still Alex Morgan. I feel like some more changes would have been nice.
Yeah.
Maybe in order to do that, you need a manager that is willing to trust more
put
changes.
their hand. Well, with the Carly Lloyd thing, it's great to have, but it's got nothing. If you have such a venerated figure, even if they're not playing or they are, to have them there, and I'm trying to think of a comparison in the Men's World Cup, which I felt was a bit of a distraction because you still kind of, for lack of a better expression, have to kiss the ring a bit because that's the big star on the bench, and you feel like the eyes, they're always there. And I wonder if the positives, unless she's going to produce on the field, the negatives outweigh the positives in that case, just because you want the team to be liberated and free to express themselves.
Yeah.
Without kind of looking over their shoulder.
I mean, no one's really been able to pull it off. I mean, in the modern era, in the World Cup, you can say Spain's run from Euro to Euro with a World Cup in between. I mean, that's phenomenal. They didn't change much over, but
that's the outlier.
In a World Cup, it just does not work. Italy has fallen twice. Marcello Lippi, and then 82 to 86 twice. It hasn't worked.
Marcello, he did so good. That's terrible. All right. Well, there you go. Sorry to rain on your parade, but I've been wrong before. Not a lot. Vince, all the time.
All the time.
But, well, there we go. That will start this week, so enjoy it.
June 7th.
Great summer soccer. We have the Gold Cup. Your credentials just got approved, so I'll see you there at the Rose Bowl on the 15th.
Yes.
For Canada, Martinique, and then we're going to take off before Mexico. No, we're going to stay for Mexico.
Okay.
We'll stay for next. It's just a drive. You got to get out before the game ends, so that I will be doing.
My favorite Mexican player won't be there.
Carlitos?
Yeah, we shouldn't get into that.
It's an interesting story. And then Copa America with Messi in Argentina. Neymar, who just landed in Brazil camp in his private helicopter. Talk about distractions. And they're the host. I can't wait for that tournament, too. So enjoy it. Tristan Blackmon, you're going to sit down with him.
I'm going to sit down with him. I have
some questions for you going to share.
Yes.
And we just put a nice another bow on Inside LAFC. So we'll have that interview when we return. TB, UOP.
Welcome back, everybody. Inside LAFC. You do not have to adjust your headphones, or if you're watching, adjust the, I wouldn't say television set because this is on YouTube, but I've substituted. I've traded up Max Bretos for Tristan Blackmon. Tristan, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you very much.
How was training's been a little bit? I wouldn't say lighter, but there's a definite vibe where you guys got to have maybe just a couple days off this past week. How's that been?
Yeah, no, it was good to have a few days off after the last game. But yeah, I'm excited to be back in training. I think everybody is too. So it's going to be a good week.
I would assume for you, and I don't want to make too much of an assumption, but the past few weeks that you've probably been chomping at the bit more than maybe some of the other guys to get back and to kind of continue the run of form you've had. Tell me a little bit about these past 2 weeks, because you got your first MLS goal, first MLS assist in the past 2 weeks. What's it been like? Yeah,
no, it's definitely been a grind. I mean, getting your first goal is a huge step in your career as a young player. So I think that gave me momentum into the past week of training, just being so excited to be back in it. And then obviously this past weekend in Portland, getting my first assist as well was awesome. So I'm very excited to keep pushing on and keep this thing going.
As a young player, what is it like? Is it one of those things where it feels like, wow, all of a sudden things kind of do roll in? Because I've had conversations with Bob over numerous topics, and we always talk about how things aren't linear. And he tries to tell you guys, like, your progress is never going to be linear. There's going to be setbacks. We're going to have to work on things. How do you keep that in perspective? And then, like I said, is there a moment where you feel like, I don't know, the lights turn on? Like, what is the feeling like?
No, yeah, I think the goal might have been, it might not even have been the goal, just like the game, being in the game against Montreal was like my light switch. I feel like things were clicking. Passes were going where I thought they were going to go or wanted them to go. Position-wise, I felt really good and in the game. So I think definitely that was like my light switch, like not necessarily a wake-up call because I've always been awake and like, in the game and in the past. And but yeah, I think my trajectory is like on a good level right now. yeah, I think keeping the pace, you just have to be ready to like go in training every day and say, I need to, like, you can't get content. You have to remind yourself that there's still things that you can work on every day. And the coaches do a very good job of reminding me, like, okay, you know, you've been doing good, but there's things to work on. So it's not just coming from me, like, it's definitely from the coaching staff too, like pushing me every day. And I'm super appreciative of that because, you know, I'm in this position because of them, and they push me to be the best player that I can be. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, training, you know, it almost becomes cliche that we talk about how much training informs your game, the way you train, the way you play. We've heard that a million times.
Yeah, for sure.
You're one that in my previous conversation I've talked with you, you've talked about wanting to be not just good, but better than good. Yeah. You know, it's a phrase I like to use with Max a lot is at LAFC, being good is not good enough.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so what is it about your kind of mentality that has allowed you to maybe be cognizant of your focus and your positioning, but also willing to say, hey, I'm going to have to maybe make a mistake to step up and make a play, or at least put myself in a position where, like, if I make a mistake, I'm going to have to be okay with it because what my reward is going to be something better than what I was, you know, playing it safe.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a mentality. You have to be willing to, you know, sacrifice a lot in order to get the reward that you want. So I think last year for sure, I went through times where I felt like, you know, I'm doing the work, like, when's my chance going to come? Or, you know, am I not doing enough? Or what am I doing wrong? Can I be doing, like, more at the end of training to, you know, show the coaches that, you know, I want this? And I think throughout the end of last year, like, going to Phoenix, being on that loan stint, gave me confidence coming back into this year. And I was very focused this year on, like, what I wanted to do to help the team and to better myself. So I think it's definitely a mentality of being aggressive and not being afraid. I think that's the number one thing. Last year I played in the games and I wasn't like myself. I didn't feel like, you know, I was ready to win every single tackle or press every single moment that I could. So I think this year has definitely been a huge step for me in that note. And I think, yeah, the number one thing for me is just don't be afraid to be, like, making mistakes because, you know, that's how you learn. So, yeah, even in training, when you mess up, you know, brush it off your shoulder and, you know, move on to the next one. And again, the coaches definitely, like, not harp on me, but remind me, you know, it's okay to make mistakes because that's how you're going to get better. So. Right.
Yeah. And one of the things that Bob brought up after the Montreal game where you really pushed the initiative. Mm-hmm. I remember there was one moment that I think the moment that led to Latif's goal, there was a moment where you were backpedaling for a second, but you saw a ball be a little slack. And I think in that moment we saw you really kick into gear where you're like, this is my moment. This is where I'm going to step forward. And you did.
Yeah.
And you basically broke up the play. The play goes forward, goal. Mm-hmm. But Bob brought up Sergio Ramos. And I know
he's brought that up to me before.
Yeah, I know people like to tweak Bob because they're like, why are you bringing up these players? But can you illuminate for people that don't understand? Because even when I played, and I'm very old, even when I played, the best coaches that I had would always show me a player, and it's not so much to tell you like you're gonna be this player, right? Tell me why they're doing that for you.
No, it's just they see tendencies that you have and qualities that you have that might remind you of a certain player. So they think that if you're able to watch this person, so for instance, they've told me Sergio Ramos or Kyle Walker at times. They see things that you do on a day-to-day basis that kind of reflect in the games that those players play. So it's not necessarily like, oh, you're going to be the next Sergio Ramos or like Kyle Walker, but you have the abilities that they have, and you just need to keep pushing because they've gotten to the level because they've grinded and put their qualities to use. So if you can figure out how to do that, you're going to better yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be them, but you're going to be the best self that you can, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, I always thought for me that what it did was expanded my imagination.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like you're out there, you're obviously giving your best. Sometimes you maybe feel like, well, I don't know what more I can do for you guys. So is seeing those guys, does that kind of say like, hey, look at the way this guy did it. Maybe I can try that on the training ground and then maybe bring that to a match day? Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. You look at film and you see, their habits on the field, and you say, oh, maybe I can tweak my game in a bit or in a certain way to, be like them. in your own way, of course. But yeah, they have. They're at the top of the level in this game, and they, day in and day out on the pitch, have habits that are very good that you can, demonstrate in your type of, style of play. So yeah, I think it's a very good, thing for not even just young guys, but just players in general to watch, people at the peak of their game, and try to emulate certain things that they do, because it helps for sure. Yeah.
Was there any guys that you kind of picked out on your own besides what the coaching staff, or are you guys aligning? Do you guys see that you're like, oh yeah, I kind of like that dude too?
No, yeah, I think I've definitely watched Sergio Ramos before, many times at like in college, and I definitely watched like Sergio Roberto, PK, all these great players. So it's cool to see that they, see some qualities that you have that, resonate with those players too. So yeah.
So a lot of people probably, if they are able to stop you in the street, LAFC fans, I'm sure they want to know, like, what is it like playing on the right side? And I mean, you have a connection with Carlos Vela,
yeah,
especially in these past few games. Mm-hmm. We just sat down with you and we broke down a goal. We talked a little bit about your relationship on the pitch and how it goes back and forth. I want to know more than anything is, like, in this Portland game, you're close by when Carlos is getting fouled. Like, what is he saying to you when you run over to pick him up? Is he like, is he in a good mood? Is he kind of knows the drill? This is how it goes.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of things are happening on the pitch?
No, it's definitely chippy. He got fouled so many times that game, so he's very good at keeping his cool, But yeah, you could definitely tell, like, he was getting irritated. Like, why do they keep coming for me? And he's a targeted player, so it's not necessarily like he has to get used to that, because that shouldn't be like every game. He shouldn't go into the game expecting to get fouled 10 times. That's just not the way the game should go. But I think it definitely got way more chippy than it should have. But we were right there by his side, ready to, figure things out if anything happened, for sure.
Does it get fun? I mean, I think I talked before. Yeah, we did Max and I's version we did yesterday. As people can tell, I'm in different clothes. I was thinking about wearing the same clothes so people wouldn't know, but I decided not to. And I was talking with Max. I go, it's got to be for a young player. Sometimes you look and you think, oh man, I don't know what to do at this moment, or maybe not even that. It's just you're seeing Carlos and you're like, man, that's really cool. And then you realize your brain kicks in gear. Like, you're supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to like out yourself and say you've had moments of that, but what is it like, just kind of vibing and also like I said, working with him? You guys have a relationship on the pitch that you guys is important to the team.
No, for sure. It's definitely a cool relationship, because he's such a great player, and to be able to play alongside him is, it's an honor for sure. But yeah, Beta and Carlos have a great relationship, and you have to, as a player who doesn't play all the time, you have to figure out how you're going to build that relationship, so when you do get called on, that relationship isn't lacking. So I've definitely done, as best as to my abilities to, try to figure out Carlos's, tendencies, whether he comes inside or, stays out wide. Try to figure that out as quickly as I could. And yeah, it's been working out pretty well. I try to give him space when he wants it, and then also provide, an option for him when he needs it. But yeah, I think our relationship is definitely, growing. And like I said earlier, I think I'm, super excited for how, further in the year, how much stronger the relationship will get. Yeah.
So I want to jump from an on the pitch relationship to off. I always like to joke with Walker that you, Tyler and Walker, have a nice little happy family. Yeah. Because the way you guys hang out and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Tell the viewers a little bit about that. I mean, we always see you guys in each other's Instagram stories, whether you guys are like playing with each other, messing with each other's cars. Like, it just seems like you guys are always around each other. Is that the case?
No, for sure. Yeah. Obviously, we all live in the same vicinity. We all live in Santa Monica. I think Walker lives maybe 5 minutes away. But yeah, we have a great relationship with one another. We're kind of like the Three Musketeers, I guess you could say. But yeah, we have good times together. We're always spending times with one another, outside the pitch. And yeah, they're a great group of guys, for sure.
So like video games, movie nights, like what kind of stuff are we talking about? And other question, is there ever a day when Sally is like, can the guys just get out of here? Like they're always here, or is she very motherly in that way for you guys?
No, I would say Sally's definitely the mother figure, and in all of this, but she definitely loves when we are around. Just to have us around is always a good time. I think we're pretty fun. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting how our relationship built, because actually, if you ask Walker, he didn't think I really liked him last year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this past towards the end of last year and then the beginning of this year, we've really grown in our relationship with one another. And yeah, I think it's kind of like a brotherly thing going on. I'm definitely the younger brother, but yeah.
They pick on you the most? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, we do all kinds of stuff. We get coffee together. We play video games, like you said. Yeah, more than not, we're hanging out after training almost every day. Yeah.
Who's the one that, I wouldn't say you guys have like elaborate pranks, but you're always like picking on each other or like messing with each other's cars. Who's like the worst? Who's like, you're like, all right, cut it out. Or is it you?
Oh, that's tough to say. I don't know.
Or what's the best one that one of you have done to the other?
Best prank. I don't know about pranks I don't think we do very many pranks, but Walker has this tendency when we go out of training and it's like really sunny outside. I don't know why he does it, because it's disgusting, but he always looks up at the sun and purposely goes to my car and sneezes on my car, and that's pretty annoying. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just banter here and there. But I think it's give and take with all of us. I think each of us dishes out a decent amount every once in a while.
Right. Yeah. So it's not something you wouldn't trade it for the world, right?
No, never.
All right. Well, Tristan, thank you so much for coming on Inside LAFC. Yeah. It's been great to have you. Great to see you kind of grow on the pitch. I hope we can have you in again, talk about more goals, more everything for you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
For all those listening, make sure you subscribe. Inside LAFC, we got guys like Tristan Blackmon. I'm going to sub him back out for Max. I guess we'll bring Max back next week, because I think you have some more important things to do on the pitch.
Probably.
But best of luck to you, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Later.